So with said, I'd like to entertain a motion to return to full in-person learning as presented by the superintendent. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
By Greg Showers. Do I have a second? Second by Melissa Johnson. All right, discussion. So,
I would like to move that we amend the motion that is proposed to replace as presented by the superintendent with starting the week of this Monday, the 15th, or however that would be worded to make the most sense.
well, let's talk about that, Josiah, and I understand.
It has to be seconded first.
Okay.
Second.
Well, I don't think you can make a motion under a motion, right?
Yeah, he made an amendment, so yes. And Cindy
Okay.
just seconded it, so now you can have the discussion only on the motion of the amendment.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Yes. I'll second.
By Cindy Florenziani. All right, discussion on the amendment.
So, just to be clear, because I was having a hard time, what day did you want to do it?
This coming Monday, the 15th, which I don't think they're exactly in school, right? So that's why I amended it to say the week of Monday, the 15th, whatever wording that would make the most sense with.
Well, we have to look at a couple things, Josiah. One is the teachers will not be vaccinated by then. And the teachers will not be vaccinated by then. They will not be vaccinated until April 1st. The second thing that we need to look at logistically and moving stuff around to accommodate that probably is going to be very time consuming. The third thing that we need to look at with that is I think we would want our teachers vaccinated because, as the interim superintendent stated, at the high school, they're not going to be 6 feet apart following the guidelines. So we need to take that into consideration. I think nobody wants to see kids back to school more than I do. I think in person, and I think, this year, the rest of this year and the following year are going to need, is going to be makeup, no doubt, but I don't want to rush it. That's just my opinion, and anybody else have opinions, please speak up before we call for the vote on the amendment.
Well, I think that our interim superintendent has done her due diligence on this, and I would agree that doing it before, during a week that's a little bit crazy would not work. And if, SATs are coming up and, those half days, that's not going to make any sense. Giving the parents, we're giving the parents enough time to say this is when we're starting. So that's another thing. I mean, I think we should be in school all the time, but this seems like the most legitimate time to start it. So I would not agree with that, starting earlier.
Yeah, I just want to say this is really not, I guess, directly to this term, but a lot of times you hear our kids are behind, our kids are behind. Our kids aren't behind. Our kids are where they're at, and everybody is in the same boat, and everybody is feeling the same things. And if that means we have to alter the curriculum a little bit, or we have to alter the timeline of when kids learn certain things, then so be it. It's not going to matter in 10 years. It's not going to matter in 20 years. These kids will get the education that they need to get, and if it takes a little longer to get it, it takes a little longer to get it. This is health and safety that we're talking about. This is not, we're not in a race against anybody else, and we have to be thinking about what's the most important. And everybody's safety and everybody's health is more important than any benchmark that we're trying to get here. So that's just my 2 cents.
So I guess I would ask Josiah, and your point, and you bring up a good point, and I don't necessarily disagree with your intention, but do you think that the benefit is going to outweigh the risk by proposing what you proposed, I guess, I want you to be heard, and I would like an understanding of, instead of just, I want them back.
Well, I'm actually going to answer every single point that was made because I think everyone makes good points, and I think everyone's making their points in good conscience. So let me respond to them. First off, about the superintendent doing her due diligence, I don't disagree, but I do think we have different roles than the superintendent does. The superintendent's role is not the same role as the Board of Education. The fact is she has a lot more information, specifics about everything, and her job is to oversee every little detail that comes on, and her role is to be a little more careful than we are forced to be, I would say. I think it would be an odd thing if the superintendent was much more gung-ho about things than the Board of Education. So I just do think we have different roles. She's able to put out the proposal she thinks is best, but we do have a vote for a reason. The vote isn't for us to just say yes to whatever the superintendent says, but it's also not to ignore what she says. I think we have advice and consent on what she says. So that's first off. I don't think me saying this has anything to do with doubting what the superintendent said. Secondly, the input, also that half days and SATs and stuff is coming up, so that wouldn't make any sense to come back during that. That doesn't really follow in my mind. I don't know why it wouldn't make sense to bring kids back to school as quickly as possible, even if during that time there's days where they wouldn't be able to be there full time. Because at the moment, under our current model, they'll be there less days, even less than if we decided to go back full time. So on the days like Easter or stuff like that, the students will, sure, they're not going to be there that day, but there's still other days in the week that they could be there full time. So that, I don't think that follows logically. When it comes to vaccinations and the teachers, it's mentioned we want to make sure all the teachers are vaccinated before we bring kids back to school. I think the one thing I'll say is in every business, company situation in America right now, people are going back to work whether they have the vaccine or not. The reason people are going back to work is because we're figuring out everything we can about this virus, and mainly what we figured out is there's almost nothing you can do. And if there's anything that we do know, it's that the safest place in the world is schools. Studies all over the country, all over the world are showing some countries have had school the whole time during the pandemic, and they've had no outbreaks in schools specifically. Some states, like Florida, have had schools open for a very long time, bunch of months, and there's been absolutely no evidence of school openings causing more outbreaks. So when we talk about the safety of our teachers, I want the safety of our teachers to be spoken of in a way that actually makes sense. I don't think people are saying what they don't believe is true. I just don't think people know exactly everything that's true. So that's what we talk about when it comes to vaccinations. When it comes to it being time-consuming to get our kids back in schools, how much work that would take, I do think that's our job, is to get kids back in school, no matter how time-consuming or difficult that might be. It's been too long that they've been without school. They're not going to be 6 feet apart. That's a good point. They're not going to be. And like I said, out of everything we're learning from this virus, it's that there's almost nothing you can do to combat it other than sit at home 100% of the time. That would keep you from getting the virus. Everything else we've seen, you're pretty much going to get it no matter what if you ever go out of your house, because it is a virus. It travels through the air. Don't want to rush it. That's what I'm talking about on the time-consuming part. I think we're beyond not rushing it. The kids have been out of school for a very long time, not full-time, and I want to go to the last part where our kids aren't suffering from this. I have spoken to various students, and I've heard from various teachers, man, maybe not everyone's kid is suffering, but there are some kids who are getting destroyed by this, and it will affect their future for a very long time. Their grades have plummeted for a lot of students because of this. A lot of students can't take school seriously when they're only there half a week. I don't know how that could be debatable. It's difficult to imagine that everything we've been going through, we can just say everything is the same as it would have been if we went to school full time. There's no difference. There's a huge difference for a lot of students. Maybe not all, but there is a huge difference for a lot of students. And the last thing about this is about health and safety. I'm with everyone on that. But as I said, the safest place in the world during this pandemic seems to be the schools, because the kids and people under, let's say specifically under 16, almost never transfer this virus to others. It's not me speaking because I think I'm smarter than anyone. It's just what we've learned throughout this pandemic. And that's why schools like in Florida have been able to be open for so long without any outbreaks in schools. So I'm with the health and safety. But I don't think that has anything to do with opening schools right now, just like every other company and business and everything else in America is opening up. And I think schools are the most important thing. And when you have kids who are the least likely to get and spread this thing, for schools to be closed over everything else doesn't make any sense. And I know it's not closed, but it's hybrid. And there's almost no reason that I can imagine I think I respectfully answered everyone's point. I don't think I'm being personal. I don't think I'm attacking. I think I've respectfully answered everything everyone said. You can disagree with anything I said, that's fine.
Absolutely.
But I don't think, after everything that I just responded to, that there's any real reason to keep the schools in hybrid or closed or anything. I think we need to go back to full-time.
So let me start by saying I appreciate your viewpoints. I really do. You've done a good job. And I don't disagree with most of them. I do disagree with one, that the safest place is in the schools. We've had outbreaks here in this school system. And the one thing that you have to keep in mind, it's not just children, it's staff. And when a staff person is out, we don't have the resources within this community to backfill that staff. And that's an important part that we have to keep in mind as well. And a lot of the times the quarantining and stuff, and you're right? The younger kids don't transmit it amongst themselves that we know of yet, or the other variants coming. We don't have that information. But the teachers do, and we've had that. And we've had remote days and hybrid days because of the staff having to quarantine, following the CDC guidelines and following the governor's directives. And that's what we have to go by, like it or not, right? I don't work for the CDC. I'm not smarter than the people at the CDC. I don't claim to be. But there's some very smart people who work for the CDC. And if they recommend that, and the Department of Public Health recommends this strongly, that's who I have to go by. And that's who the superintendent, I'm sure, goes by. We've had numerous discussions, multiple, over and over again on that. I do want the kids to get back to school, and I do agree with you. And I'm sorry, but I do realize that there are kids that are highly affected by this, for whatever reasons. It could be that they're just not into the computer. It could be that they don't have the guidance at home to make them do their work. And some people are online learners. I fully understand that. And I think we're combating that. I don't think waiting till the proposed date from the superintendent is going to be crucial. And that's going to ensure that when they do come back to school, it's the most effective way for them to get back into the groove and to do that. The teachers and the staff need to prepare for that as well. As well as parents and children mentally need to prepare for going back to school. And I think that's an important aspect that we need to consider. So I do appreciate all your viewpoints, and I don't disagree with a lot of them. Yes, Michelle.
Hi, I was just going to make a comment that if we were to open, like, what, next Monday? There's not enough time for the principals to plan the schedules. I'm sure that schedules have to be altered with the specials and the math time block. And this takes weeks to do because I've been helping my principal at Waterbury do this. And we redid everything like 10 times and we still find errors and we have to place the student, and equal out the classroom so each classroom has the same amount of students. And it's going to be like the first day of school. You have to set all those expectations as you would at the beginning of the school year. And that's another reason teachers need time to plan for this. So I agree with the superintendent that we should go back April 19th.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
I just want to call the question.
No,
Go ahead.
I call the question.
Oh, all right.
I'll go on.
Yeah, all right, okay. So let's vote on the amendment. Yes,
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't,
she's calling for the vote. That means no
Oh.
more
I
discussion.
called the question.
okay, so she has to get a 2/3 vote to end debate like that.
Would I do second it?
No, you don't need to second it. There's no second on the call.
Yeah, you
Just-
gotta call the vote.
You are,
Call the question.
that is incorrect. We've actually went over this before. You have let someone call a vote before, and that literally means ending debate.
All right, well, let's point of order. All right. We have a call for the vote. Let's debate Robert's Rules of Order. Is there polling the room, is there going to be any more discussion on the amendment?
Yes.
Just yourself. Is that okay if we let you
Calling the
say?
question stops all conversation.
Okay, all right.
I think everybody already said what they thought.
You can look it up if you want, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I think that would be appropriate right now.
All right, then I'm going to call for a recess to look it up to make sure we make the right decision. All right.
Do we need a motion for the recess?
I'd like to entertain a motion to recess.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I don't have a copy of it. Now, going back, we have a call for question on the floor by Melissa Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Foote. Okay. So we need 2/3 of the vote. So yes, you are in favor of ending discussion. No, you're not in favor of ending the discussion. We'll start with Mr. Showers.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Johnson. Mr. Foote.
Yes.
Mrs. Klessa.
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Okay. Flanciani.
Yes.
Mr. Josiah.
No.
Okay, motion carries. Discussion is ended. All right. So now let us vote on the amended, proposed by Mr. Elsigar. Yes, you are in favor of moving the date up to March, what was the motion? March 5th, the week of March 15th. No, you're not in favor of it. We'll start with Mr. Showers again.
No.
No.
No, Mr. Foote.
No.
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 Ms. Flanciani.
No.
No, yes.
Yes.
Okay. That motion is defeated. The amendment is defeated. Now, going back to the original motion.